On today's show, Kyrie Irving doesn't make the All-Star team. Ridiculous.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We have
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being in every day or making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to a free Locked On Mavs newsletter, your one stop for the best news and analysis on the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA straight to your inbox. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, co-host, media member, the firing fiend, the one more thing king. He's fired up. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
You know, there's not too much. I don't know if it's just like, hey, we've been covering the league for a while now that like makes me like mad. And today I got pretty upset about something because if there's one thing that I feel like should have been a lock for this first, part of the season or up until the All-Star break, it was the fact that Kyrie Irving should have been an All-Star. And the fact that he didn't get named an All-Star, I was ready to just like, all right, let's do this. I'm ready. I could have like hit record on the pod as soon as the reserves came out. All right. So I'm ready.
We're here. We're ready. We'll talk about it. We'll get into Kyrie as an all-star. We'll also talk about, do any of the Sixers or Hawks players that are getting calls right now, do you have any interest in a trade? Is Bogdanović somebody of interest for the Dallas Mavericks still? We've talked about him a lot over the years. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's start here, Isaac Harris. Kyrie Irving, all-star snub, does not make the all-star team. And you start looking through the players that did make the all-star team in the West. And we already knew the starters going in. We knew the starters were going to be Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, SGA, LeBron, and Jokic. That's a combination of the fans and the media and all that. And then the coaches picked the reserves. The reserves, I think you get 2 guards, you get 2 wings, or you get, 2 guards, 3 front court players, and 2 wild cards, right? Isn't that how it ends up being? You got Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr., Alfred Şengün, Victor Wembanyama, and Jalen Williams. When you saw the list and did not see Kyrie Irving's name, how did you respond?
I mean, yeah, I was pretty upset because I think Kyrie Irving deserves to be an all-star. And I didn't think it was really a question. I don't know if you can just, toss me the rock here for a second. Cause I've had this like fuming inside of me for a bit today. Listen, Kyrie Irving has had one.
Fiery Isaac, he's back.
It's just stupid. It's really dumb. And it's disrespectful to Kyrie that he's not in this game because listen, and I get it. It's the, he's going to get time off and that's great for the Mavs and all this stuff, but he deserves to be named an all-star. It's one of the most efficient seasons he's had so far. Kyrie Irving averaging 24 points a game. He's on 48% shooting and field goal percentage, 42% from 3. And, when you look at that efficiency, as far as like guards in the league, you're like, all right, who you want to be an all-stars in the NBA? It's the efficient, the guys that's playing the most efficient basketball. When you look at guards in the league that are taking at least 18 shots a game and shooting at least 48% from the field, there's 3 players that's doing that. SGA and Brunson and Kyrie Irving. Well, the other 2 guys are starting the all-star game. Kyrie Irving's not even in the all-star game. So if maybe you want to look at it and be like, all right, well, what about the clutch play of like Kyrie Irving? Should that factor in to an all-star appearance? I think it should. Who has the highest plus minus in the fourth quarter this season so far? Well, it's Donovan Mitchell, and then it's Kyrie Irving. Well, then you start looking at like a highest scoring, like who's averaging the most points in the fourth quarter so far this year? Okay, LaMelo, Norm Powell, Kyrie Irving, third on that list. So not only is he one of the most efficient guards in the league, but he's one of the best fourth quarter clutch performers in the league too. But let's not stop. I don't want to stop there. I want to talk about the Mavs for a second. The Mavs are the only winning record team besides the Kings that don't have an all-star, in which Sabonis should have been an all-star too, that don't have an all-star in the all-star game. Let's take it a step further and say Mavs are the only team with 25 plus wins and no all-star. And guys, winning matters because look at Şengün and Sabonis. If you went just off stats, Sabonis should have been over Şengün, but I get it because winning does matter. And the Rockets had to have somebody in this game, and he deserves to be in there. The Mavs have only won 3 games without Kyrie this year. And guys, the best player on the team, Luka Doncic, has missed 26 out of 48 games, and the Mavs are still 26-22. They're still over 500 by 4 games, and they're 1.5 games from the 5th seed in the West. You know who's carrying them? Kyrie Irving. And on top of the Luka injury, you have all the other players on this Mavs roster that has missed teams. The Mavs have logged 15 players this year that have logged over 100 minutes. 13 players have logged over 200 minutes. Kyrie Irving is one of the most efficient guards in the league. He's one of the most clutch players in the league, and he's kept this Mavericks team above 500 without Luka and other players on this team. He should have been an all-star. It's stupid. It's dumb, and I get all of that. And then the question is, okay, cool, you wanted Kyrie. Who else should who he should have replaced? Well, one, I want to look at Jalen Williams because in OKC, if you look at Jalen Williams, yes, I get it. Good season, but Kyrie's been more efficient. Look at some of the numbers. And Kyrie has a bigger responsibility. We want to hype up OKC's roster all day long until it comes to the playoff or when it comes to the All-Star appearances.
Then too.
Well, yeah, but it's like we want to talk about OKC's roster being so loaded and stacked, and I get that. But shouldn't that factor into the All-Star voting too? And here's 2 things with this. OKC has a plus 17 net rating when Jalen Williams is off the floor. They have 120 offensive rating when he's off the floor. They have 103 defensive rating when he's off the floor. If that doesn't show you how stacked this team is, a plus 17 net rating when he's off the floor. Come on. And don't tell me about, hey, the top team in the league, the top record in the league, or one of these top teams, they got to have 2 stars in the All-Star game. Well, tell that to Jamal Murray, who's never been there before, when the Nuggets have had really good records and he just gets passed over, and he has similar stats to what Jalen Williams does. So don't miss me with the Jalen Williams should be over Kyrie Irving. And if we want to take a step further, get even more spicy, he should be over Anthony Edwards too. So
that's right.
It's a no-brainer. Kyrie Irving should have been an all-star. We could take so many different paths. He's one of the most efficient players in the league, and he has that star status. Nobody's turning on the freaking all-star game to see some of these guys like Jalen Williams and Şengün. They're turning on the freaking all-star game to see Kyrie Irving, all right? So Kyrie Irving should have been an all-star.
Burn it all down!
It's stupid.
Fiery Isaac back again. You got to love it.
And let me say this. I am so sick and tired, and I get it. This was the coaches stuff, and it wasn't the media stuff. I get that, but there's so much media out there that wants to just still crap on Kyrie. They want to take shots at Kyrie or take shots at the leadership stuff because, some of the stories that hear, half the media is tied to Boston anyway. So they didn't like how that turned out and how he burnt Boston. And yeah, could he have done things differently in Boston? For sure. But now they're carrying that over. And so many people in the media and people in general want to discredit what he's doing right now in Dallas and the efficient basketball on top of the leadership that he has in this locker room and his organization. That doesn't discredit what he's doing right now. And that bias shows whenever you're talking about the Mavericks and you want to kind of discredit everything that happens with the Mavericks because you hate Kyrie for something that you disagreed of some decisions he made 5 or 6 years ago. Then that's the stuff that I'm just like, Pat, come on. Like,
move on.
You can have opinions on the Mavericks, and it can be separate than the whole Kyrie. I hate Kyrie because X, Y, and Z from 5, 6, 7 years ago. That stuff's just dumb. And I get this as coaches and not media, and however the coaches, whatever. But you can't tell me that when you go against other, teams in the Western Conference, you can't tell me that you spent more time prepping for Jalen Williams than you did Kyrie Irving, especially when Luka has missed 26 games so far this season.
And the Mavs have basically the same record as the Timberwolves.
Yeah. I mean, that's what people don't want to hear is like he should be over Anthony Edwards. I'll take it a step even further. LeBron shouldn't even be an all-star. All right. Ooh. But he's an all-star. But you at least get that because of his status and all that stuff. But the Lakers have 2 all-stars.
But here's my thing coming up. Why have these players passed Kyrie Irving in status? The Anthony Edwards, the Jalen Williams, even like a James Harden. Why have they passed him in status and it's they get automatic berths into the All-Star game, and Kyrie doesn't. Talk about that more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by TurboTax. Taxes has been taxing on so many people. This is a message sponsored by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as you work on your return. So they work on it and you don't have to, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worry. This is Taxes Now. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only at iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners that check out the show each and every day. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out. We've got the QR code or links in the description to find ways to get to our newsletter or get to our Locked On Mavs text line where you can text me and Isaac on all kinds of stuff. We're answering questions. We're trying to answer all the texts that we get. So if we missed your text, send it again. We'll get it at some point. We've got a lot of them in there. So that's the best way to get in contact with us. It helps support the show. You get stuff. We'll send you messages all throughout game days. Every rumor that we see, we'll send it to you. Every Mavs specific rumor, we'll send it straight to you with our thoughts and all that. So subscribe to the Locked On Mavs text line. All right, Isaac. Kyrie Irving does not make the All-Star team. And we're seeing people say that he's the biggest snub in the West. And I agree, because you start looking around, you're like, I don't think Devin Booker's a bigger snub than him. LaMelo in the East, even if you want to go overall. I don't know about that. There is something in me that just goes, how is it fair? And why is it beneficial for the NBA that Tyler Hero gets to be an All-Star and Kyrie doesn't? Right? Like, you start looking East-West and you go,
welcome to the East.
I don't know about that one. Tyler Hero's numbers are very good this season, by the way.
Yeah.
So, it's been good. But I want to go back to, all right, who shouldn't make it then? Well, you mentioned a couple of names. You went through Jalen Williams and you talked about why he shouldn't make it.
Can I just say Jalen Williams is a really good young player and he has good stats, and I get that OKC is the top record. You hate that you have to come across like you're like hating on a player. You just can't convince me.
But if you're going to,
you just Jamal Murray
Jamal
Murray just went through this for so long and he never got in because they had a good record and they should have had 2 All-Stars and all that. And Kyrie's just had a more efficient season.
Yeah, and it has done more with less.
Yes.
Right? Like,
I go back to when the Mavericks they're like a plus 0.5 or plus 0.8 in net rating without Kyrie Irving on the floor. And the fact that Jalen Williams, in all the time that in the hundreds of minutes that he's off the floor, they can have a plus 17 net rating.
That's like elite. That's like the best in the, like, that's playing the best basketball in the NBA.
It just shows you how good that team is.
Yeah. And so, all right, they get credit for it. The Anthony Edwards one is fascinating to me. And I want to talk about this because how did Anthony Edwards already have a higher status than Kyrie Irving in the NBA? It seems like he's obviously a lock, but why is Kyrie not obviously a lock? You start looking at their numbers, and Anthony Edwards averaging like a couple more points, but Kyrie's efficiency is better on across the board on everything. And I mentioned the record. The Timberwolves are right now a half game ahead of the Mavericks. And you ready for some injury numbers? I saw our friend Jimmy, All Things Mavs, post this, and these numbers are staggering. Here are the injury numbers for the Timberwolves this year. Dante DiVincenzo, 7 games and counting. He's out, but only 7 games so far. Mike Conley's missed 4 games, and I feel like I've heard every single one of them. They say, oh, we're missing Mike Conley. Naz Reid has missed 1. 4 out of 5 starters on the Timberwolves have played every single game this season.
That's wild.
Every single game. For the Mavericks, Luka has missed 26, Lively 16, Maxey 14, Najee 13, Kyrie has missed 10, Klay Thompson 7, PJ 7. Not a single Maverick has played every single game this season. And Kyrie's played 9 less games. Is that the difference? 9 less games and 2 points. But why is Anthony Edwards a guaranteed lock? If you had just looked at their resume side by side for the season, I don't think that you would say Anthony Edwards deserves to be an All-Star more than Kyrie.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think it's, when there's some cool TikToks and some cool dunks and funny post game quotes.
He's had great moments.
I know, and he's a lot of fun. He's one of the next faces of the league.
But they've lost 21 games and they haven't been injured at all. It's just been bad vibes and weird stuff over there. It's like, okay, that means Kyrie has done more with less.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, I haven't seen the I like to see the like voting. Does it come out with this or all NBA stuff where it shows the voting breakdown?
Shows everything. Yeah, I don't think we've seen that yet.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Because what if it was Edwards and Kyrie that was really close and coaches voting? Or
I don't think
like
I bet it wasn't.
Yeah, and I would say you're probably saying that because you don't see as much like online, debate on Anthony Edwards made it over Kyrie.
Nobody's going to do that today.
Yeah, because it feels like he's just a lock for a lot of people. And
so, but why? Why is he anointed? Why is he the lock all of a sudden? The Mavs beat him 5-1 in the playoffs last year. He didn't win there. His team is worse this season, and he has not made Julius Randle better. He's a 2-time All NBA player and can't play with him.
Yeah,
hasn't been made better. He has a 4-time All Defensive player. Like, why is his team not better? And he's the lock All-Star and Kyrie isn't. That's the one that really got me. Not even Jalen Williams to me. Jalen Williams I get because of team success, and I'll ask you a question about that here in a second. But the Anthony Edwards one, I was like, why is he a lock, a guaranteed lock in people's minds, and Kyrie was not?
Yeah, no, I think it's just like a status in your brain of like, oh, he's one of the faces of the league now, and he's Adidas's guy and all of that, and he's a lot of fun. So, and the fact that they lost Towns, I bet some people just like
lost. They didn't lose him. They traded him for 2 guys, and it hasn't worked because he can't play with them.
I know, but like Towns is like starting in the East, and it's just like, I think in some people's heads they don't. Well, in like some people's heads, they're probably looking at it like, oh, he's the one guy in Minnesota. So, he's got to whatever. And, and let's just go ahead and have I've seen the Luka conversation. Luka's played 22 games, and I just can't, like, I love Luka, but I got to hold him to the same stand. Like, I was pretty pissed when, KD made it a few years ago when he only played, 19 or 20 games or something like that. And so I got to, like, keep the same standard here of, like, if I was
keep
mad
the
about
same energy.
Yeah, I can't be like sitting there like throwing out fire because Luka didn't make it with 22 games and he wouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I don't feel anything about Luka. You got to play enough games for sure on that. And man, it's just so okay. Do NBA coaches value team wins too much? Because we've seen now Şengün over Sabonis, Jalen Williams over Kyrie, even on the other side, Hero over LaMelo, and Trae Young. Trae Young is a snub in the East that I don't think a lot of people are going to talk about. He's averaging 22 points and 11 assists. There's only been 5 players ever to average 20 and 10 points and assists to not make the All-Star. It's like Harden, Westbrook on the Wizards, and then like 2 guys from the 80s. Kevin Johnson, one of them. Like, it just hasn't happened very much. And Tyler Hero makes it over LaMelo, who's the number 1 in fan vote, and then Trae Young, who's having a crazy season.
I seen something.
And the Hawks are only like a game and a half behind the Heat. It's not like they're so much better.
Well, yeah, I think people kind of equate those 2 types of players of like, hey, fun point guards, is it winning basketball type of thing? The LaMelo one's wild because I saw somewhere where he was 3rd in player votes, and like first for fans too. So it's like it was that drastic for coaches. Coaches must really not like his style of play.
No, they probably don't. But here's the thing, though. The NBA is shooting themselves in the foot with this thing, with not letting all-stars that are all-stars and that are actually stars make this. A LaMelo, a Kyrie, a Trae Young that have these fan bases that would be tuning in.
I saw Mark make a joke on Twitter about, the ratings are going to be great.
Oh, yeah, Mark Cuban. Loyal listener of the show, Mark Cuban. You said Mark. You said Mark.
Sorry, I was already thinking of the second half of the sentence. I wasn't trying to do that.
But like, if the NBA is worried about ratings and stuff and wants to make like, all right, we're putting Jaren Jackson Jr. and Şengün in this game to do some post ups and to do some floaters and. Like,
see, okay,
which one are we going to lean into? We're just going to completely lean into this.
I know,
but then we put LeBron in it. I don't know what are you doing with this event?
I'll push back just a little bit. Even though I made like a similar thing in the first segment about like people tuning in for stuff. If we're going to if people are going to throw out the value of All-Star, and this is one of the individual like awards that
award categories,
it goes to, then yes, I think it is unfair to a Şengün or somebody or Jaren Jackson because you don't do 1 foot floaters from half court like LaMelo does, so you can't be an all-star. I think that's unfair. So I think they should be an all-star for sure. It's just, yeah, it's about stats, and it's not like I'm throwing LaMelo in, or I mean, if that's the case, then you're like Klay should be in because he's going to shoot 1 million threes, and people love Klay Thompson.
Yeah, there's a conversation about merit, which you talked about with the Jalen Williams and the Anthony Edwardses of the world, and then there's a conversation about what this event is and what the NBA is doing to themselves by setting it up this way to where it is these players and not the ones that people actually want to see.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a different conversation, which is the NBA just hasn't set it up to where it's the most popular players. And I don't know, we probably don't want it to be a popularity contest, but this is All-Star is also not used to get players paid. That's all NBA. That's the one that should be all merit. The All-Star game should have some of this included in it, I think.
And that's probably how LeBron got in. So,
well, he did because player vote and fan vote, and he's many players' goats.
Yeah. And players vote a lot of.
That makes you the angriest in the world. That's like the thing you hate the most.
No, because the players make some very dumb votes, as we see every time.
Fair. That's fair. But we're putting Pascal Siakam in instead of Kyrie Irving. It's like, all right, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's just for me when I was doing like my own like reserves type of thing. Like I started with Kyrie as like a West guard in the reserve ballot thing because I thought it was a lock. And I actually understand James Harden more than I do Edwards and Jalen Williams.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about James Harden. Even though the Clippers are as good as they are because of their defense, and James Harden's their worst defensive player, it's like, okay. Well.
Yeah, and Norm Powell's had a really, really good season. Like he deserves some love too, to be honest, for an all-star. So Kyrie should have been an all-star, hands down. And it's ludicrous that he's not.
Coming up, Luda. The Sixers and the Hawks are apparently taking calls on some of these players. Should the Mavericks be interested in Bogdan Bogdanović? They've been in the past. Should they now? We'll answer that coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. All kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to talk about and get more invested in Super Bowl 59. It's here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. No better way to make the game more exciting than with FanDuel. All kinds of different things. With the Super Bowl right now, still Kansas City Chiefs -1.5. You've got Super Bowl 2026 odds. You ready for these?
Give me my Ravens.
Chiefs +600.
Okay.
The next one is an AFC team.
Ravens.
+650. Your Baltimore Ravens.
Let's go.
Eagles +700. Bills +850. Lions +1,000. San Francisco 49ers +1,500. That's like a Lakers bump. They get there. Packers +1,900. That's Super Bowl 2026 if you're interested in that. All kinds of stuff with FanDuel. And right now, you can download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac, let's talk about some rumors. Let's go through the rumor mill. Who's on the hot seat right now? The Hawks are apparently taking some calls, or at least teams have expressed interest in Bogdan Bogdanović. The Suns, the Heat, and other teams, according to Hoops Hype, have expressed interest in him. We've talked about him a lot because in the last couple of years, because he's another playmaker. He could come off the bench. He can score. He can play make. He's making $17 million this year, $16 next year, and then has a team option of $16 million year after that, which is kind of interesting. He's 32. Interested in Bogdanović. Would he be the extra playmaker that the Mavs need?
Yeah, I actually like him a lot. I've always liked him. Dude is just a bucket getter. Friends with Luka. I guess here's my question back to you. Would you rather have Bogdan at 17 million or Spencer Dinwiddie for the vet men?
That's the question the Mavs have to answer. And right now, honestly, if you look at their numbers, I would take Spencer Dinwiddie. Because do you know what Bogdan's averaging right now this season?
He's had a weird season so far.
10 points on 37% from the field in 25 minutes a game.
Yeah, I think he's just tough. Just not with the team right now too.
And so I mean, he's played 24 games, although not a lot. But yeah, and so he's in a weird spot. And so can you guarantee that he'd come back? And is he worth that much more than Spencer Dinwiddie right now? That's an interesting question. And what you would have to give up, you'd have to put like Maxey, Dwight, maybe Omax as like trying to fit salaries together just to get to 17 million.
Yeah.
Which I think I'd be okay giving up one of those guys.
I think you probably have to put Grimes in it. Sorry. But.
And I don't know, that's a sticking point for me. Because now all of a sudden you're like, I know we got an update on Maxey.
You like Grimes more than Bogdan?
Maxey had foot surgery. I like Grimes' defense more than Bogdan. And the Mavs, Grimes has made some defensive stops in the Thunder game and the last game that the Mavs played. Oh my God, what was that? What was that team they just played?
Pelicans.
They're all running together for me now. Made some defensive stops late in the game because he's played in clutch moments because kids starting to trust him. He's also a knockdown 3-point shooter. Bogdan was only shooting 30% from three. Like, I know he does represent this guy that could be a playmaker and could be an extra offense for the Mavericks, but if it takes that, and the Mavs have to cobble together a couple of contracts and send assets too, like maybe they do have to send some seconds or something to make up for the Maxey contract, something like that. I think I'm out. I think I'm actually out on it, and I was surprised that I was out on it after I thought about it for a little while.
I probably am too, but if it's if it's one of those deals where if they did it, I would understand it, because then you'd have like a solidified third like initiator on offense, third bucket getter. I'd be fascinated to know if like him and Klay are both healthy, and Luka and Kyrie are healthy, who they have as that like third shooter out there, because obviously Bogdan can do a little bit more off the dribble and stuff right now, and so I think I'm out on it. But yes, if they did it, I would be like, okay, I get it, and it'd be nice to have another creator too, but. No.
Yeah, like I think him and Spencer Dinwiddie I think Spencer Dinwiddie's had more 20-point games than Bogdan has this year. Just a weird season for him. And he's not fully away from the team. He played 2 games ago and played 9 or 10 straight games. The Hawks are also taking calls on our old friend Clint Capella.
See ya.
He's making 22 million. Mavs are out on that now.
Yeah, no, you can miss me with that.
And then DeAndre Hunter, who's having his best season. He's averaging 19 points a game on 39% from three. He's a bigger wing. He's been coming off the bench, 28 minutes off the bench. He's making 21 million. Next year he'll make 23 and then 25 million basically the year after that. That one interests me. That one would be a potential Grimes upgrade if you want to do something like that, or a Najee upgrade if you want to throw one of those players in and be like, all right, let's upgrade at that spot and get somebody like DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, I've weirdly watched a lot of Hawks this year, and just because I just love
outside, or like the basketball team.
Yeah, but binoculars
big
set
red
up
tail
on the back porch. I've just been fascinated by the Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Ricochet pairing.
Love that we can't pronounce the number 1 pick's name. It's like the most irrelevant.
It sounds like a candy bar. And so I don't know. There's something about him I like watching him play. So I've seen DeAndre Hunter a lot, and really liked him at Virginia, but he had the like injury stuff. His contract is a little too rich for me, but I like his fit on Dallas for sure. He's definitely a bigger wing, and to have 2 bigger wings out there, like a PJ and a DeAndre Hunter, that would be kind of cool to have.
That's the thing. If they are taking calls on him, he would unlock that smaller ball lineup that kids been trying to throw out there with the Dwight and Maxey injuries lately. He's been throwing out Omax out there. He's been throwing out Kessler Edwards out there. Would DeAndre Hunter be able to come in and just fill that spot, PJ and DeAndre Hunter, and be able to run that? I think the answer is yes. I just don't know what he would cost, because he was the 4th pick in the draft in 2019 for them. He's averaging 19 points. He is coming off the bench, so it's like, all right, how valuable can an off the bench player be for you right now as a team? But yeah, that one's interesting. It would depend on what it costs.
What do they want right now?
Would you do the 1st round pick this year?
No.
See, I think that's where it probably stops.
I just don't know what they want. Like, it feels what you want another point guard. Well, you have Trey and Daniels back there. You want a big? Okongwu is like your guy. Capella should hardly ever play, and it's just like it feels like you are trying to get, unless you're just trying to get off the contract, you would be trying to trade for a guy like DeAndre Hunter, like just another wing out there that can do what he does. So I just don't understand why they're trying to trade him.
It's because, to me, if I'm the Hawks, it's because you're in a spot where you're not going to get much better than what you are right now. Like who's jumping, who's taking a big leap? Is Jalen Johnson going to take another like all-star leap to get to where he's already been taking a really big leap this year. He could, but DeAndre Hunter's 27, and maybe this is selling high for them.
They could. That I would be trying to ship trade to Sacramento. So wherever Fox goes, I would just be trying to like, hey, can I hop in here and like Sacramento? You want to stay good? Here you go.
There you go. Trade. We'll do a one more thing episode. We'll talk about Miles Turner. He's apparently drawing interest around the league. The Lakers, of course, are checking in on him again. But are the Mavs in a position where they don't want Miles Turner for the first time in maybe ever, the Dallas native? We'll talk about that in a one more thing. So check out that episode a little later. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Check the QR code or the links in the description to find more ways to support the show and to follow us. We'll have a post-game show on every post-game. We'll have a show in between all of those. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.